Today we're going to be making this super cute balaclava. I'm really excited to show you how to make this. It's like the perfect essential for winter. I took everything I love about other balaclavas and put it all together. So it's got some nice ribbing around the face. It's got a drawstring. It doesn't have like that top panel that a lot of balaclavas have. It's like perfectly molded to the shape of your head. If you love to make your own clothes and you love to take a traditional old lady hobby and put a modern twist on it, you should subscribe to this channel. I'm going to give you so many dupes and so many fun patterns. Just you wait and see what I have in store for you. I've recently designed like 5 different patterns and I'm obsessed with them and I can't wait to bring them to life and then bring them to you. So you should subscribe so you don't ever miss any of my fun little tutorials. Yeah, that's everything. Put on your favorite playlist, let's jam and let's crochet together. For today's pattern, you'll just need a 4mm hook, a measuring tape, some stitch markers and your yarn. I'll put on the screen what kind of yarn I actually used in the project, just because the yarn that I'm going to be using today is just some leftover yarn that I have and it's not thick enough for this project. And then you'll just need your usual things like scissors and whatever else. So yeah, let's get into it. Okay, hi. Sorry, it's me again. I should have filmed this when I had my cute intro set up, but I forgot to do that and the tripod's already in a really good spot, so I'm not about to move it. I'm going to show you how to measure your noggin so that it fits your big head. Kidding. Just kidding. But I'm going to show you how to measure your head so that it fits your head. Okay, I like to do all of my measurements for crochet in inches. If you want to be more specific, you obviously can do centimeters, but this is just what I prefer to do and it works for me. So you're going to put your measuring tape at the top of your head here in the center, and you're going to wrap it around like before where your ear is and take the measurement from just before your jaw ends. So like the very base of your jaw, just a little bit above that, because that's where your ribbing is going to join. So just take that measurement. So for me that was 9 inches. And then you also want to take the measurement from the center of your head here, so that's where your first panel is going to start, all the way to where your head starts to kind of dip back, so where the crown of your head is. It's kind of hard to see. This is kind of an awkward angle to shoot. That point in the center there, so for me that's about 5 inches. That's the measurements that you need and the only measurements that you need. Alright, so I've got my first panel already done here, just so that you can see what kind of shape you're going to be aiming for in this panel. The length of my panel is about 9 inches long, which is where I took my first measurement from. And then the point at which we start decreasing is around 5 inches, which is the second measurement that I took. So this is just so that you can see what kind of shape we're aiming for in this panel. Alright, so we are just going to start off with a slip knot, and you're just going to chain as much as you need in order to reach that first measurement that we took. Okay, so I've chained 34, which is about 9 inches, which is my first measurement that I've taken. Now I'm just going to chain an extra chain, just as our turning chain, and we're going to be working into these back loops here. So as you can see, when you turn the work over, you can see those little bumps along the back. That's what we're going to be doing our stitches into. For this panel, it's going to be single crochet back loop only, but for this row, obviously you're just going to do a normal single crochet into those back bumps. Okay, so now that you've done your row of single crochets, you're going to chain 1 and turn the work. And now we're going to be working into the back loop only. All that means is that when you have your crochet stitches, you can see at the top of them, they kind of have like this V shape. Your back loop is the loop that is going to be the furthest away from you. So these ones along here are the back loop, and these ones along here are your front loop. So we're going to be working into the back loop today. For all of my first and last stitches, I like to do a normal single crochet or a normal stitch or whatever back loop stitch I'm doing. So as I said, we'll just do a normal single crochet in that first stitch there. Feel free to mark your beginning and end stitches as well if you are a beginner and you need a little bit of help just keeping track of where your beginning and end stitches are. And then we're going to do a back loop only single crochet. So we're going to go through this back loop here, and just do a normal single crochet, but it's just through that back loop. I'll show you again a little bit closer. So you can see your back loop is this one here. Just going to push it through there and do a normal single crochet. So we're just going to do our single crochet back loop only until you get to the final stitch. And in your final stitch, you're just going to do a normal single crochet. Okay, so I'm at my final stitch for the row, so I'm just going to do a normal single crochet. And you'll really start to see once you've done multiple rows of this how it just keeps the edges so much neater when you finish and end with a normal stitch. So now that I've done my final stitch, I'm just going to chain 1 and turn the work, and you're just going to repeat this same process for as many rows until you reach that second measurement that you took. So for me, that's 5 inches. Okay, so I've done enough rows to hit that second measurement that I took, which was 5 inches. So now I'm going to start doing my decreases. So now I'm going to just chain 1 and turn the work. And as you can see here, we've only got one end when we're doing decreases. So we're going to start doing 2 decreases per row only on one end. So down here, it's still going to be flat. So if you need, just make sure that you mark the end that you're doing your decreases on. But as you can see, the shape will be pretty obvious as you keep going along. So for the decrease that's going to be at the end, you're going to include that normal single crochet into it. So you're just going to insert the hook and pull up a loop, and then insert it into the back loop of the next stitch. And pull up a loop, and then you're just going to pull through all 3, and that there is your first decrease. So I'd recommend just marking that. And then you're going to do a single crochet back loop only decrease. So you're just going to insert the hook into the back loop, pull up a loop, insert it into the back loop of the next stitch and pull up a loop, and then pull through all 3. So you're basically just going to then repeat the process that you've done in your first few rows. So you're just going to do a single crochet back loop, and once you reach your final stitch, you're going to do a normal single crochet, and then you're just going to chain 1 and turn the work, and then do your normal single crochet at this end, and do your single crochet back loop until you reach the final 4 stitches of this row. Okay, so now that I'm at my final 4 stitches, I'm going to do a single crochet back loop only decrease, like so, and then I'm going to do a decrease with a normal single crochet in it. So for this one, you're just going to insert your hook into the back loop, pull up a loop, and then insert it through both loops of the next stitch, pull up a loop and pull through all 3. Then you're going to chain 1 and turn your work, and you're basically just going to repeat the last 2 steps that we've done for 11 rows total. So from this stitch marker, which I recommend keeping in place just so that you know where that curve is supposed to join on both panels. So I would go ahead and use another stitch marker to keep track of the decreases now. So for 11 rows total from this marker, you're going to keep repeating this process. Okay, so I've gone ahead and done my 11 rows of my double decreases. So as you can see, we've got that shape that I showed you at the beginning. Once you've reached the end of your first panel, you're basically just going to chain 1 here, and then you're going to cut the yarn and pull through entirely just to fasten it off. I've already done that in my first panel, so I'm not going to do it again because I am going to show you how to join this panel to your other panel. But you're basically just going to repeat this entire process a second time to create your second panel, making sure that all of your beginning stitches and your rows are all exactly the same because you want an exact replica. So I will see you back here once you have your second panel. Okay, so I've got my 2 panels here. As you can see, they are exactly the same. If I lay them on top of each other, they line up perfectly. You're just going to want to join your panels together like this. This is obviously going to be the front of your panel, and then this is going to be the part that curves around your head. So I'm just going to take the panel where my yarn is still attached, just chain 1 just to help with getting started, and then taking my second panel, I'm just going to make sure that it's lined up all correctly, and we're just going to do a single crochet stitch along the edge up until here, so all the way around this bend here. So you're just going to insert your hook into this first stitch and into the first stitch of your second panel. Just going to do yarn over, pull up a loop and pull through both loops, so just a normal single crochet, and you're just going to do that into each stitch. Now we are just going to start to do a single crochet stitch along the edge here where there are no visible stitches. So you're just going to basically insert it. Honestly, I eyeball this. You're just going to insert it wherever you can find a good space. So that looks pretty good to me. Don't overthink this step too much, just as long as it's on the edge so it doesn't take any length or width off of your panel. So as you can see, I'm going into this large gap here, and then I'm going to find that same large gap on the other panel, which is just here. Just line it up as best as you can. And I'm also going to insert a stitch into that first chain on either side, just so that there's no weird gaping there. So in that one there and in this one here. And you're just going to do a slip stitch here. So instead of a single crochet, you'll just pull that yarn straight through, and then you're just going to chain 1, take your scissors, cut the yarn and just pull it through to fasten off. And then you have that first section done. Okay, so moving on to the neck ribbing, you're just going to do your slip stitch. You're going to chain 15. +1 for your turning chain, and we're going to be doing half double crochets in this section. Again, we're just going to be working into these back loops here. So you're just going to yarn over and insert your hook into the second chain from the hook and do a half double crochet, and you're just going to half double crochet in each stitch to the end, and then you're just going to chain 1 and turn the work. You're going to do a normal half double crochet in this first stitch, and then you're going to do half double crochets in the back loop only until your final stitch. Do a normal half double crochet in that final stitch, and then chain 1 and turn the work. And you're going to basically repeat that process for however many rows that you need. Okay, so in order to get the correct amount of rows for your neck ribbing, what you want to do is just put this on and pull it taut around your face so that you can see where these two panels are going to sit. And you're just going to measure the distance between the two panels at the bottom of your jaw, because that's where your ribbing is going to join up to. And it's ultimately going to be the length of these two panels connected together plus that distance. So for me, that distance was about 3 inches. So I did enough rows to reach this length plus that 3 inches that was missing. And that's how I got my 40 rows. It could be more or less for you. Remember to keep trying it on as you go, just to make sure that it fits comfortably. Okay, so I've done my 40 rows of my neck ribbing. Could be more or less for you. I've just turned this panel that we created inside out again, because we're going to start stitching this neck ribbing to the top of it. But before I join it to this section, I am just going to join this neck ribbing together. So I'm just going to do the exact same thing that I did for the two front panels and chain 1 and turn it over. And I'm just going to do a single crochet stitch along the edge here. Okay, so now that this is joined together, I'm going to keep the yarn attached to the end here, and we are again going to do a single crochet stitch along the edge here. Before you do that, you just want to mark the distance that you needed before for this front panel section. So for me, that was 3 inches, so about 6 rows total. I'll mark here, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I'm going to mark there as well. So I've just chained 1, and now I'm just going to start stitching through. Again, we're going to be eyeballing this. Just anywhere that seems like it would line up, you're just going to stitch through. I recommend marking this first join that you do so that you know where you need to finish off later on. There really doesn't have to be a specific amount of stitches here, so don't worry about having to count your stitches. You also might want to just take that stitch marker that you've created and mark it into that end stitch so that you know where to stop, and also so that you can have a clear guide of what you're stitching together. So you're just going to continue stitching along the edge until you reach that first stitch marker. So here's that stitch that I've marked, and I'll go into my final stitch here. And then from here, because we're obviously not joining that section to anything, we're going to just remove this marker here and just single crochet along the top here, just in any section. This is just so we have something to crochet into later on as well. So we'll take this marker that we've applied here, and we're just going to join it to that initial front stitch, just so we know where we're going to start crocheting into again. And now you will have your back section here that you're going to stitch together. And just making sure once again that everything's lined up. I just like to pull it a bit so that I can see what I'm working with. And then just remove that stitch marker. And then just single crochet stitch along the edge again. So you're just going to keep doing this until you get to that center seam. And then as you can see, this is the first stitch that we've created. So you're just going to slip stitch into that stitch and chain 1, cut your yarn and pull it through to fasten off. Okay, so I've just tried this on so far and everything fits perfectly. So I'm now going to start doing the ribbing around my face. I'm going to use a different color for this just because I'm running out of this wool, but obviously you don't have to do that. So you're going to chain 8 +1 for your turning chain, and again we're going to be working into these back loops along here. So just do a single crochet into this back loop here and single crochet into each loop, and then chain 1 and turn the work and do a normal single crochet in here, and then you'll do single crochet back loop only in the next 6 stitches, and then in your final stitch you will do a normal single crochet. So you're going to repeat the process of the single crochet back loop only rows until you reach the same width as this section here. So for me that was 3 inches, and basically what you're going to do here is you're going to skip 2 chains in here. This is going to create the space for you to pull your drawstring through. So I'm just going to chain 1 and turn the work, do my normal single crochet, do 2 single crochet back loops only, and then we're going to create that space. So I'm going to chain 2 because I'm skipping 2 stitches, and then I'm just going to do my normal single crochet back loop only and then a single crochet at the end. I'm going to chain 1, turn the work and single crochet in here, and just do everything else as normal. And when you get to this double chain, just do 2 single crochets in there just to get those stitches back again, and do your back loop only single crochets and then your normal single crochet. Chain 1, turn the work, single crochet, and then single crochet back loop in all of these until your final one where you will do a normal single crochet. And then you'll just do this process that you did here for as many rows as you need to reach this circumference. So once we actually do end up joining this to the perimeter of your balaclava, you're going to be folding it over and joining it like this. So ultimately this will sit here like this. When you go to do your final stitching together, you will skip 2 stitches to create that other space. I will obviously show you that once we get there, but just keep in mind that this is where your center of this section will join. It'll be in this corner here. So you're going to want to just keep doing this process here for the rest of the perimeter until this point. For me, that's about 80 rows in total, including this section. So now I've done my 80 rows. So I'm going to join these 2 together now just to create a full ring, and I'm going to leave a space for the other side of the drawstring. I'm just going to put the 2 pieces together and make sure that there's obviously no twists. I'm just going to do a single crochet seam along the edge, but I am going to skip those 2 center pieces. So I've done a single crochet seam in the first 3 stitches, and then instead of chaining 2, we're just going to separate the 2 for a moment and just do a single crochet as normal into these 2 chains. So you won't be joining together in that section. And then put them back together, and in the last 3 stitches you'll do your single crochet seam. So now, as you can see, you will have 2 holes for your drawstring. So now we're going to be stitching this so it's in half like this, and we're going to do this separately from this as well. It will just make it so much easier to join it all rather than trying to fold this and stitch it to this at the same time. So I'm just going to turn this inside out so that this seam here is facing us, and we're going to fold it in on itself like this and do a single crochet seam along the edge here. So as you know, you will have the same amount of rows in here, or roughly the same amount of rows in here as you do stitches in the perimeter. So you're going to want to do around 1 single crochet per row that you have. So you can see where your rows are here. You've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So you'll do 1 in here, say 1 in that center hole there, and you just want to repeat this process for the whole perimeter until it is stitched like this. Okay, so I have 80 stitches total that I've done around here. I'm just going to do a slip stitch into that first stitch here. I'm not going to fasten off yet because I'm going to use this yarn that's already connected to attach it to the front of my balaclava. So before you do that, you just want to locate where the 2 holes are for your drawstring. So mine are here and here. I'm just going to mark them. And then, as I mentioned before, this section here is supposed to go in this gap here. So this is how we're going to be connecting it to the perimeter. But you're just going to turn this inside out again. And then starting with chain 1, and turning it, just making sure that again this is lined up to the center here. So this stitch mark is on this end and this is on this end. I am just going to start stitching it together. So I'll go into this stitch here and this first stitch here, and we'll just do our single crochet seam again. You want to be stitching your ribbing on the inside, so because we are doing the stitching on the wrong side of this garment, so that when you turn the work right side out, the ribbing will flare out like this. Okay, so now I'm back at the start. I'm just going to slip stitch into that first stitch, chain one, and then cut the yarn, and then just pull it through. That's basically the bulk of your balaclava done. I'm just going to turn this inside out so you can see. So basically this whole section has been done now. All you need to do is create the drawstring and then we will be done. So for your drawstring, you're just going to start with a slip knot and chain 120, and it's basically just going to be one really long chain of single crochets. Okay, so I've changed my 120. I'm just going to turn the work now and do single crochets into those back loops again. And I'm just going to do that for the whole way until the end. I'm just going to finish it off here. And then I'll chain one. Cut this yarn a little bit longer, you'll see why in a moment, and just pull that through. You're going to take a yarn needle and just attach this yarn at the end to it. Just pull it down as much as you need to and just tie a knot here. So now that this is attached here, you're going to start to weave this into this section. So going from your stitch markers where you've created those holes, just insert your hook on one end and really just start pushing it through. This is another one of those processes that is a little bit more fiddly, so really just take your time and have some patience with it. Okay, so I've just pulled that through, and then all you need to do from this point is just weave your ends in and then you'll be done.